Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. That way, you'll always stay connected to our stories and never miss the next adventure. Finn had seen some truly stupid ideas in his 10 years working xenobiology on Pinnacle Reach Station. But this one, oh, this one took the prize, wrapped it in explosive ribbon, and shot it out an airlock. "Let me get this straight," he said, leaning back in his chair hard enough that it creaked in protest. "You want me to babysit 3 Malgrith cubs through their first transformation? The transformation, the one where they go feral, triple in size, and develop a taste for anything with a pulse." Commander Idris stood on the other side of the desk, looking like a man who'd aged a decade in the past 3 hours. His jaw was tight, his eyes bloodshot, and his usually immaculate uniform had a coffee stain on the collar that suggested he'd given up on maintaining appearances somewhere around the second crisis meeting. The word babysit does not adequately capture the severity. "Oh, I'm aware," Finn interrupted, holding up a hand. "I'm also aware that the last trained Malgrith attendant who tried this got torn into pieces small enough to fit in a sandwich bag. Plural bags, actually, because they had to collect him from 3 different rooms." Idris's expression didn't change. That was an untrained adolescent going through the transformation alone. These 3 have supervision available. You. Me. Right. The human with exactly 0 Malgrith transformation experience. Finn picked up his coffee mug, discovered it was empty, and set it down with more force than necessary. Why not call in a specialist from their homeworld? Someone who actually knows what they're doing? Transit time is 18 days. The cubs enter transformation in 6 hours. 6 hours. Finn felt his stomach do something complicated and unpleasant. Through the reinforced window of his office, he could see the main concourse of Pinnacle Reach, where dozens of species moved in the careful choreography of interspecies diplomacy. The station was a miracle of cooperation, a place where natural enemies shared air and commerce and mostly managed not to kill each other. Mostly. "Their previous caretaker?" Finn asked, though he already knew the answer. "Gone. Fled to the docking bay the moment the first pre-transformation symptoms appeared, and bought passage on a cargo hauler heading anywhere else." Idris pulled out a tablet and set it on Finn's desk with a thunk. "Ambassador Ornala is desperate. She cannot attend to them herself. Adult Malgrith trigger aggressive responses in transforming adolescents. It has to be a non-Malgrith, and it has to be someone with xenobiological training. There are 6 other xenobiologists on this station. 3 are off-station at a conference. 2 refused outright. Dr. Wilmoth locked herself in her quarters and won't answer her comm." Finn picked up the tablet and scrolled through the medical data. The 3 cubs, Nex, Rila, and Gorn, stared out from their identification photos with the unsettling golden eyes characteristic of their species. They looked like someone had taken wolf cubs and crossed them with something from humanity's nightmares, all sleek fur and too many teeth, and an intelligence in those eyes that promised they understood exactly what prey was. "Their transformation begins in 6 hours, Finn said slowly, reading the timeline, "and lasts approximately 30 hours, during which time they'll lose most higher cognitive function, experience extreme aggression, and possess the strength to bend steel support beams." "Correct. And I'm supposed to keep them from killing each other, killing themselves, or breaking containment and going on a rampage through a diplomatic station housing 8,000 sentient beings." "Also correct." Finn looked up at Idris. The commander looked back at him with the expression of a man who'd already calculated the odds and didn't like what the numbers told him. "What's the survival rate for non-Malgrith attendants?" Finn asked. You don't want to know. Commander, Idris sighed, and suddenly he looked every one of his 50-something years. 19%. And that's with trained attendants from species with comparable strength profiles. Humans are... He trailed off. Squishy, Finn finished. The word you're looking for is squishy. I was going to say not optimized for this scenario. That's a fancy way of saying I'll probably die. Idris didn't deny it. That was the thing about the commander. He never sugarcoated, never offered false comfort. It was one of the reasons Finn actually respected him. If you refuse, I cannot compel you, Idris said quietly. But Ambassador Ornella has already requested emergency evacuation protocols for her cubs. The alternative is sedation, restraints, and isolation. The psychological damage from that approach... He shook his head. It breaks them. They never recover full cognitive function. They become something less than what they should be. Finn thought about that. Thought about 3 kids. Because that's what they were, really. Kids. Going through the most terrifying experience of their lives alone and restrained like animals. Thought about them coming out the other side damaged, diminished, robbed of their potential, because nobody was willing to take the risk of being there for them. Well, he said, setting down the tablet and standing up, I guess my afternoon just got a lot more interesting. Idris blinked. You're accepting? Don't sound so surprised. You came to me because you knew I'd say yes. I'm the idiot who hand-raised a pack of Terran wolves on the colony worlds. I'm the idiot who calmed down that Vrex delegation when they went into mating frenzy last year. I'm the idiot with a reputation for being supernaturally good at not dying around things that want to kill me. Finn grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. So yeah, I'm your idiot. For the first time since entering the office, Idris's expression softened slightly. Thank you. Thank me if I survive. If I don't, make sure my personal effects go to the wolf sanctuary on New Vancouver. They'll know what to do with them. Finn? Joking, mostly. Finn headed for the door, then paused. I'll need complete access to the containment suite. Full environmental controls, and I want all the furniture removed. Anything they can use as a weapon comes out. Soft materials only. And tell security to set their perimeter outside the suite, not inside. If I need backup, I'll already be dead. Understood. Anything else? Finn considered. Tell Ambassador Ornella I'll meet with her before I go in. I need to understand Malgrith transformation protocols from a parent's perspective, not just the clinical data. I'll arrange it. Finn walked out into the corridor and immediately regretted his life choices. The problem with being known for staying calm in dangerous situations was that people assumed you didn't feel fear. Finn felt fear just fine. He just had a lot of practice ignoring it. The walk to the diplomatic quarters took him through 3 security checkpoints. Word had already spread. He could see it in the way people looked at him. Some with pity, some with awe. Most with the expression people wore when watching someone walk toward certain doom. Lieutenant Paz intercepted him at the 2nd checkpoint. She was built like someone who'd been assembled from spare military parts, all efficiency and controlled aggression, with sharp features and eyes that evaluated everyone as either asset or threat. You're actually doing this, she said. It wasn't a question. Apparently. You know the elite guard has a betting pool on your survival? What are the odds? 8-1 against. Finn whistled. Someone's optimistic. Paz didn't smile. She never smiled. I'm head of security for this sector. If those cubs break containment, I'm authorized to use lethal force. All 3 of them. No exceptions. They're children. They're predators who will be operating on pure instinct. Children or not, I won't let them slaughter civilians. Her hand rested on the plasma pistol at her hip. I wanted you to know that before you go in. Finn met her eyes. If they break containment, it means I'm already dead. So do what you have to do, Lieutenant. She studied him for a long moment, then stepped aside. Good luck, Finn. For what it's worth, I put money on you surviving. Yeah? Yeah. Someone has to be the statistical anomaly. The diplomatic quarters were a study in controlled chaos. Ambassador Ornala's suite had been modified to accommodate Malgrith proportions. Everything was larger, heavier, built to withstand the casual strength of a species that considered reinforced steel to be roughly as sturdy as cardboard. Ornala herself stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in sleek gray fur that shimmered with an oily iridescence under the station's lighting. Her eyes were the same unsettling gold as her cubs, but ancient, weighted with intelligence and something that might have been despair. You are the human, she said, in flawless standard, her voice a deep rumble that Finn felt in his chest. I'm Finn. I'm here to help your cubs. You are here to die. Well, that was direct. Maybe, Finn said. But I'm also here to make sure they don't die, and that they come through this transformation with their minds intact. That's worth the risk. Ornala moved closer, and Finn's hindbrain screamed at him to run. She was a predator in every sense of the word, designed by evolution to hunt, to kill, to dominate. Her presence filled the room like a physical force. Do you understand what you are agreeing to? She asked softly. My children will not know you. They will not remember your kindness. They will see only prey, weakness, something to be destroyed. And you, she tilted her head, studying him. You are so small, so fragile. One strike, and you break. Yeah, I get that a lot. This is not a joke, human. No, Finn agreed, his tone shifting to something more serious. It's not. But humor helps. Fear is useful right up until it paralyzes you, and I can't afford to be paralyzed in there. So I joke. I stay loose. I remember that at the end of the day, your kids are just scared and going through something they don't understand. That I can work with. Ornala was quiet for a long time. Then she did something Finn didn't expect. She lowered herself to all fours, bringing her head level with his. On my world, she said, what you are attempting is called the witness walk. It is the highest honor one can show a Malgrith family, to stand with cubs in their transformation, to risk everything for their safe passage into adulthood. Most who attempt it are elite warriors, trained from birth, and most of them die anyway. Encouraging. I am not trying to encourage you. I am trying to make you understand that if you do this, if you survive this, you will be bound to my family in ways your species has no words for. You will be their guardian, their protector, their... She paused, searching for the right word. Their pack parent. Do you understand? Finn hadn't understood. Not really. Not until that moment. So if I survive, I'm basically adopting 3 alien apex predators. In effect, yes. And they'll be my responsibility. For life. Finn thought about his quiet little life, his research, his carefully maintained distance from emotional entanglements. Thought about how that life was about to get very, very complicated. Okay, he said. Let's go meet them. The containment suite smelled like fear and something else, something wild and electric that made the hair on Finn's arms stand up. The medical team had cleared out 20 minutes ago, taking with them anything that wasn't bolted down and some things that were. What remained was a large open space with padded walls, soft flooring designed to absorb impact, and adjustable lighting that currently sat at a dim amber glow. 3 sets of golden eyes tracked Finn as he entered. Nex was the largest of the 3, already showing the muscle development that would make him formidable even by Malgrith standards. He crouched in the far corner, tail lashing in agitation, lips pulled back to show far too many teeth. His fur had started to darken along his spine, one of the pre-transformation symptoms. Rila occupied the middle ground, pacing in tight circles and making a low clicking sound in the back of her throat. She was smaller than her brothers, but moved with a grace that suggested speed and precision. Her ears kept flattening against her skull, a sign of sensory overload. Gorn had wedged himself under a reinforced bench near the wall. He was shaking, Finn realized. Full-body tremors that made his juvenile frame look even more fragile than it was. His claws had extended involuntarily and were scoring marks in the flooring. "So," Finn said, keeping his voice conversational and non-threatening, "I'm guessing nobody explained what's about to happen in a way that didn't sound completely terrifying." Nex snarled. It was an impressive sound, full of promised violence. "Yeah, I'd be angry too," Finn continued, moving slowly toward the center of the room and sitting down cross-legged on the floor. "Adults probably told you this is natural, this is normal, everyone goes through it," which is technically true, but also spectacularly unhelpful, when your bones feel like they're trying to escape your body. Rila stopped pacing, her head tilted, regarding him with confusion and something that might have been curiosity. "My name's Finn. I'm going to be here with you through this whole thing. I'm not leaving. I'm not restraining you. And I'm definitely not going to pretend this isn't going to be awful. Because it is. It's going to hurt. You're going to be scared. And there's going to be moments where you don't remember who you are." He paused. "But I'll remember. That's my job. To remember for you until you can remember again." "You will die," Nex said in heavily accented standard. His voice was rough, caught between child and something else. "You are prey. We will kill you. Maybe. Probably, if I'm being honest. But here's the thing. I've been around predators my whole life. Grew up with them. Worked with them. Learned their language. And you know what I learned? Predators don't want to kill. They want to hunt, sure. They want to eat. But killing without purpose? That's not predator behavior. That's fear behavior." Finn shifted position, deliberately exposing his back to Nex. It went against every survival instinct, but instinct was going to get him killed in here. Only counterintuitive thinking had a chance. "So, here's what I think happens during the transformation. You get stronger, faster, your senses amplify to the point of pain, and your brain reverts to pure survival mode. Everything becomes threat or not threat, and the only thing that cuts through that is pack recognition. Pack means safe. Pack means allies. Pack means you don't have to face everything alone." He heard movement behind him, Nex circling closer, testing. "I'm not Malgrith," Finn continued, keeping his tone steady. "Can't be your pack in the traditional sense, but I can be your anchor, your constant, the thing that stays calm while everything else goes crazy." "Why?" Rila asked. Her voice was younger than her brother's, still carrying the slight lisp of juvenile development. Why risk death for strangers? That was the question, wasn't it? "Because on my world," Finn said slowly, "we have a saying. The measure of a person is what they do when they're afraid. And I am absolutely terrified right now. My hands are shaking, see?" He held up his hands, which were indeed trembling slightly. "My heart's going about twice its normal rate. Every part of my brain that's responsible for self-preservation is screaming at me to run. But I'm staying, because you three deserve to have someone stay. Gorn emerged from under the bench. His tremors had lessened, and he moved with the awkward gait of someone fighting their own body's responses. He came close enough that Finn could have reached out and touched him. "Will it hurt?" Gorn asked quietly. "Yes," Finn said, "because lying would help no one. It's going to hurt more than anything you've felt before. Your body is going to change fast. Bones lengthening, muscles tearing and rebuilding, sensory organs reconfiguring. It hurts because you're becoming something new, something stronger. But pain is temporary, and I'll be here to help you through it." "How?" Nex demanded, now close enough that Finn could smell the sharp, acrid scent of pre-transformation hormones. "You are weak? Soft? What can you do?" Finn turned his head, making eye contact with the young Malgrith. "I can stay calm. I can read the signs when one of you is about to lose control and needs redirection. I can use pressure points and positioning to minimize damage without restraints. And most importantly," he smiled slightly, "I can talk you through the worst parts. Because even when your conscious mind shuts down, part of you will still hear me, still process language, and that part will remember that you're not monsters. You're just kids having a really bad day." Rila approached from the side, completing a rough triangle around Finn. He was surrounded now, 3 juvenile predators in the early stages of transformation, any one of them already capable of causing serious harm. His heart rate kicked up another notch, but he forced his breathing to stay slow and even. "Our mother told us about the witness walk," Rila said. "She said most who attempt it die. She said, you will probably die." "Your mother's not wrong. The odds are terrible." "Then why?" "Because sometimes you don't do things because they're smart or safe. You do them because they're right." Finn looked at each of the cubs in turn. "Now, we have about 4 hours before the transformation hits peak intensity. So let's use that time. Tell me about yourselves. What do you like? What scares you? What are you hoping to do after this is all over?" It was a gamble, shifting the conversation away from fear and toward normalcy. But Finn had learned long ago that context mattered. If he could build rapport now, create positive associations, there was a chance, a small chance, that some part of their transforming minds would recognize him as safe rather than threat. Gorn spoke first, hesitantly describing his love of stellar cartography. Rila talked about her interest in engineering, how she wanted to design ship drives that could fold space more efficiently. Nex was quieter, more suspicious, but eventually admitted to studying tactical analysis. As they talked, Finn watched for symptoms. Nex's pupils were beginning to dilate irregularly. Rila's breathing had developed a slight wheeze, respiratory changes as her lung capacity increased. Gorn's fur was darkening in patches, spreading from his spine to his flanks. 2 hours passed. Then 3. The temperature in the room climbed despite the environmental controls working overtime. The cub's body heat was increasing, metabolism ramping up to fuel the transformation. Finn had removed his jacket an hour ago and was now sweating through his shirt. Rila stopped mid-sentence, her words dissolving into a clicking whine. She hunched over, muscles spasming along her back. "It's starting," she gasped. "I can feel—" Her spine arched violently. The sound of bones shifting was audible, a wet crack that made Finn's stomach turn. Rila screamed, a sound caught between her juvenile voice and something deeper, more primal. Nex and Gorn reacted instantly, backing away from their sister with their hackles raised. The transformation was triggering their instincts. Isolate the changing individual, avoid the vulnerability. Maintain distance from potential threat. Finn moved, not away from Rila, but toward her. He positioned himself at her side, one hand resting lightly on her shoulder, feeling the muscles bunch and spasm under his palm. "I've got you," he said quietly. "I know it hurts. I know you're scared. But you're strong, Rila. Stronger than you know. Just breathe. Focus on breathing." She tried to bite him. Pure reflex, no malice behind it. Finn shifted his position, using his body weight to guide her head away without force. "Not a threat," he murmured in her twitching ear. "Safe. Pack. Remember." Then Gorn doubled over with a roar of pain, and the real nightmare began. The transformation didn't come in waves. It came like a freight train, all at once, slamming into all three cubs within minutes of each other. Finn had thought he was prepared. He'd read the medical literature, watched the archived footage, consulted with every expert he could reach in the time available. None of it mattered. Nothing could have prepared him for the reality of watching three children tear themselves apart and rebuild into something else. Gorn went next, his small frame convulsing as his skeletal structure began its violent restructuring. The sound was worse than anything Finn had imagined. Cartilage popping, bones grinding against each other as they lengthened and thickened. Gorn's scream cut off abruptly, as his vocal cords temporarily paralyzed, leaving him gasping and wheezing. Nex held out the longest, fighting the transformation with pure, stubborn will. But biology didn't negotiate. When it hit him, he went down hard, claws raking gouges in the padded floor as his muscle mass began to double. Finn moved between them like a dancer in a minefield, every step calculated, every movement deliberate. When Rila's thrashing brought her too close to Gorn, Finn positioned himself as a buffer, absorbing the impact of her flailing limbs. When Nex's expanding frame started to crowd Rila's space, Finn used his body weight and careful pressure to guide the larger cub away without triggering aggression. The first hour was pain management. Finn had studied Malgrith physiology obsessively in the hours before entering the containment suite. He knew where the nerve clusters were, which pressure points could provide temporary relief, how to position a transforming body to minimize the agony of bones, stretching, and realigning. He worked on Gorn first, finding the junction points along the cub's spine where nerve bundles converged. Pressure there, gentle but firm, seemed to dull the worst of the pain response. Gorn's whimpering decreased slightly, his breathing evening out to something less panicked. "That's it," Finn murmured, hands steady despite the tremors running through his own body. "You're doing great. I know it doesn't feel like it, but this means you're getting stronger. Every second that passes, you're closer to the other side." Rila was hyperventilating, her newly enlarged lungs unable to find rhythm. Finn moved to her, placing one hand on her chest and the other on her back. "Match my breathing," he said, deliberately slowing his own respiration. "In, out, in, out." It shouldn't have worked. She was barely conscious, operating mostly on instinct and pain response. But something in the rhythmic pressure, the steady voice, seemed to penetrate. Her breathing slowed fractionally. Then Nex tried to stand. His legs weren't ready, bones still partially restructured, muscles not yet synchronized with his new skeletal framework. He went down hard, and the frustration, the pain, the fear, all converged into pure rage. Nex's eyes, now nearly twice their original size and glowing with an inner luminescence, fixed on Finn with predatory focus. Finn recognized that look. He'd seen it before. In the eyes of cornered wolves, injured big cats, any predator pushed past the point of rational thought into pure survival aggression. Nex charged. There was no time to think, only react. Finn dropped flat, rolling to the side as Nex's considerably larger mass passed over him. The cub's claws, now as long as Finn's fingers, raked across his shoulder, shredding through fabric and skin with equal ease. Pain exploded through Finn's upper body, white-hot and immediate. He felt blood, warm and wet, soaking through his shirt. But he couldn't afford to stop, couldn't afford to show weakness. Showing weakness to a predator in this state was suicide. He came up from the roll in a crouch, putting himself between Nex and the other two cubs. Nex spun, his movements still uncoordinated but powered by muscle mass that now outweighed Finn by a factor of 3. The cub's lips pulled back, revealing fangs that had lengthened into proper killing implements. "Nex," Finn said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline screaming through his system. "I am not prey. I am not a threat. I am pack." Outside the containment suite, alarms were blaring. Through the reinforced observation window, Finn could see Lieutenant Paz and her security team taking position, weapons raised. They were waiting for him to go down, waiting for the excuse to open fire. Nex lunged again, faster this time. Finn didn't dodge. Dodging meant prey, meant chase, meant triggering every hunting instinct in the transforming adolescent's brain. Instead, he stepped forward, into the lunge, and brought his bleeding shoulder up to Nex's face. The smell of blood stopped the cub cold. For a fraction of a second, Nex's predatory focus wavered. The scent was wrong. Prey didn't move toward you, didn't offer themselves up, didn't smell of calm despite bleeding. The confusion bought Finn the heartbeat he needed. He wrapped his arms around Nex's massive head, pulling the cub's face down to his chest in something that was part restraint, part embrace. "Easy," Finn whispered directly into Nex's ear. "Easy, kid. I know you're scared. I know everything hurts, and nothing makes sense, and you want to fight everything because fighting feels like control. But you don't have to fight me. I'm staying right here. I'm not leaving. Not ever." Nex struggled, his strength easily sufficient to throw Finn across the room. But Finn held on, using technique instead of power, redirecting force rather than opposing it. He'd learned this from the wolves: how to be persistent without being aggressive, how to be present without being threatening. Behind them, Rila started seizing. Finn felt Nex tense, heard the click in the cub's throat that signaled an instinctive alarm response. In Malgrith social structure, a seizing pack member meant vulnerability, meant potential contagion, meant threat to the group. Nex's first instinct would be to eliminate the threat. "No," Finn said sharply, tightening his grip. "She's not a threat. She's your sister. She's pack, and pack protects pack." He released Nex and moved to Rila in one fluid motion, trusting, hoping that his words had penetrated enough to buy him the seconds he needed. Rila's seizure was respiratory, her transformed lungs not yet fully synchronized with her nervous system. Finn positioned her on her side, cleared her airway, and applied pressure to specific points along her ribcage that he'd memorized from the medical files. Gorn was watching, his golden eyes wide with a mix of fear and something that might have been understanding. His transformation was progressing differently, slower but more stable. He crawled closer to Rila, making soft clicking sounds that Finn recognized as comfort vocalizations. "That's right," Finn said, encouraged. "Stay with her. Let her know she's not alone." The seizure passed. Rila's breathing stabilized, and her eyes, now large enough to seem almost alien in her transformed face, found Finn's. There was recognition there, dim but present. She made a sound, half whine and half purr, and pressed her head against Finn's uninjured shoulder. The worst hours came next. The transformation reached its peak at what Finn's internal clock estimated as midnight station time. All three cubs were now fully in the grip of the change, their bodies cycling through the final stages of restructuring. They were enormous. Necks stood nearly 2 meters at the shoulder, when on all fours, Rila and Gorn only slightly smaller. Their juvenile features had given way to the angular, predatory architecture of adult Malgrith, and they had lost almost all higher cognitive function. Finn watched it happen, watched the intelligence fade from their eyes as instinct took over. They moved like wild things now, all raw power and survival programming. They fought each other, not seriously, not yet, but testing, establishing hierarchy, working out pack dynamics through force. Finn intervened when the fighting got too intense, using his own body as a circuit breaker. A hand on a flank here, pressure on a shoulder there, his voice a constant thread through the chaos. Easy, easy. You're okay. We're all okay. Nobody dies tonight. I promised your mother nobody dies. His shoulder was still bleeding. He'd tried to staunch it with a torn piece of his shirt, but every time he moved, the makeshift bandage came loose. He was leaving blood trails across the floor, and the cubs were noticing. The scent was exciting them, triggering hunting responses. Rila approached him, sniffing at his shoulder with interest that was rapidly shifting toward hunger. Her jaws opened slightly, strings of saliva stretching between her fangs. This was it. The moment the medical reports had warned about. The moment when attendants typically died. When the transforming adolescents stopped seeing them as neutral presences and started seeing them as food. Finn's hands were shaking. His vision was starting to blur at the edges from blood loss and exhaustion. Every rational part of his brain was screaming at him to call for help, to get out, to save himself while he still could. Instead, he sat down. Just sat. Right there on the floor, with 3 fully transformed Malgrith predators circling him like sharks. He crossed his legs, placed his hands on his knees, and deliberately exposed his throat. It was the stupidest thing he'd ever done. It was also the only thing he could think of that might work. In Malgrith culture, according to the hasty research he'd done, throat exposure was the ultimate submission gesture. It meant trust. It meant surrender. It meant, I am placing my life in your hands, and I believe you will not harm me. Nex moved first, his massive head lowering to Finn's exposed neck. Finn felt hot breath, the sharp points of fangs resting against his jugular. One bite. That's all it would take. One bite, and he was done. I trust you, Finn whispered in the clicking, guttural language he'd learned phonetically from the linguistic database. I am Pack. You are Pack. Pack does not kill Pack. For an endless moment, nothing happened. Then Nex made a sound, a deep rumble that came from his chest, a sound Finn had heard in the footage but never understood the significance of until now. It was acceptance, recognition, Pack acknowledgement. The fangs withdrew. Nex lowered himself to the ground beside Finn, his bulk radiating heat like a furnace. Rila joined them from the other side, pressing close. Gorn completed the circle, his tail wrapping around Finn's back. And there, in a containment suite designed to hold monsters, surrounded by 3 apex predators who could kill him without effort, Finn finally let himself collapse. The cubs curled around him, their bodies forming a protective barrier, and for the first time in 30 hours, he closed his eyes. Finn woke to the smell of antiseptic, and the feeling that someone had used his body as a stress test for industrial machinery. Every muscle screamed protest. His shoulder felt like it was on fire. And his ribs, yeah, Those were definitely cracked, possibly broken. He opened his eyes to find himself staring at a ceiling he didn't recognize. Medical bay, judging by the equipment and the soft beeping of monitors, which meant he'd survived, which was, honestly, more surprising than it should have been. "You're awake," said a voice to his left. Lieutenant Paz stood by the window, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Medical team says you're phenomenally lucky. Deep lacerations, 3 cracked ribs, severe bruising, mild concussion, and blood loss that should have put you in shock. But nothing permanent. Nothing that won't heal." Finn tried to sit up, regretted it immediately, and settled for turning his head. The cubs? Alive, stable, sleeping off the transformation in the containment suite. Paz moved closer, and for the first time since Finn had known her, she looked almost impressed. "You did it. You actually survived the witness walk. Do you have any idea how insane that is?" "I have some idea, yeah. The security footage." Paz shook her head slowly. "We watched you get torn apart and keep getting back up. We watched you position yourself between them when they fought. We watched you sit down and expose your throat to 3 fully transformed predators. Command wanted me to breach and extract you. I told them no. Why? Because you knew what you were doing. Or at least, you were committed enough to the insanity that intervention would have made things worse." She pulled up a chair and sat. "The medical team estimates you were conscious for 28 of the 30 transformation hours. You should have passed out from pain or blood loss hours before you did. What kept you going?" Finn thought about it. "Spite, mostly. And the knowledge that if I went down, those kids would be alone. I promised I'd stay, so I stayed." "That promise almost killed you." "But it didn't." Finn managed a weak smile. 8-to-1 odds, remember? Someone had to be the statistical anomaly. Paz actually smiled at that, a brief flash of amusement that transformed her severe features. "I won 3 months' salary on you. Fair warning, half the station thinks you're either the bravest human alive or the stupidest. The other half thinks you're both." The door opened, admitting Dr. Wilmoth, the xenobiologist who'd locked herself in her quarters rather than face the cubs. She looked simultaneously relieved and guilty, carrying a medical tablet that she consulted with careful attention. "Finn," she said, "all business. Your vitals are stabilizing nicely. We've treated the lacerations with regenerative gel. They'll scar, but functionality should be unimpaired. The ribs will need another few days to knit properly. I'm prescribing rest, actual rest, not your usual interpretation of the word." "When can I see them?" Dr. Wilmoth blinked. "The cubs? Finn, you nearly died. You need recovery time before—" "When can I see them?" Finn repeated more firmly. The doctor sighed. "They're asking for you. Have been since they woke. Ambassador Ornalla is requesting a meeting as well. So, against my better judgment—" She made a notation on her tablet. 2 hours. That gives you time to eat something, rehydrate, and maybe come to terms with the fact that you've just done something unprecedented in interspecies relations." "What do you mean?" But Dr. Wilmoth was already leaving, and Paz was standing, her expression shifting back to professional neutrality. "You'll find out soon enough," the lieutenant said. "For what it's worth, Finn, what you did in there changed something. I don't know what yet, but I know it matters. Rest up." She left, and Finn was alone with his thoughts and the steady beep of medical equipment. 2 hours later, showered and wearing a fresh uniform that accommodated his bandaged shoulder, Finn made his way back to the containment suite. His legs felt unsteady, his body protesting every step. But he moved with purpose. The cubs were waiting. The suite had been cleaned. the blood mopped up, the gouges in the flooring patched. But the cubs remained, now sprawled in various positions of exhausted sleep. They looked different. Fully adult proportions, the gangly awkwardness of adolescence burned away by the transformation. They were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Rila saw him first. Her head lifted, ears perked forward, and she made a sound. A questioning chirp that seemed impossible from something her size. Then she was moving, crossing the space between them with surprising speed, and Finn had just enough time to brace himself before she pressed her massive head against his chest. The purr that rumbled through her was loud enough to feel in his bones. "Hey," Finn said softly, running his hand along her neck. "You made it. I'm proud of you." Gorn joined them next, moving with more caution but equal enthusiasm. He circled Finn once, scent-marking him with deliberate strokes of his head against Finn's legs, his flank, his back. It was a claiming gesture, Finn realized, a declaration of pack bonds. Nex approached last, his movements slower, weighted with something that might have been shame. The largest of the three stopped just out of reach, golden eyes fixed on Finn's bandaged shoulder. "I hurt you," Nex said in standard, his voice deeper now, fully mature. I remember attacking you, tearing your flesh. I remember the blood." "You were transforming," Finn replied. "You weren't in control. No blame, Nex. We all made it through. And that's what matters." "You stayed." Nex's voice cracked slightly. "You could have left. Should have left. But you stayed. Even when we—" He couldn't finish. Finn stepped forward, ignoring the pull of healing tissue in his shoulder, and placed his hand on Nex's lowered head. "I promised I would stay. I keep my promises." The door to the suite opened, and Ambassador Ornala entered. She moved with the fluid grace of her species, but there was something different in her bearing. A reverence, an acknowledgement that made Finn suddenly nervous. "Finn," she said, and her voice carried a weight it hadn't before. "You have completed the witness walk. You have stood with my children through their transformation and brought them safely to the other side. This debt cannot be repaid with mere gratitude." "I don't need repayment. I did what anyone should have done." "But anyone did not do it. You did." Ornala moved closer, and the cubs automatically shifted to flank Finn, a protective formation. "On my world, the witness walk creates bonds that transcend biology. You are now, in all ways that matter to my people, the fourth parent to my children. They will call you guardian. They will seek your counsel. They will defend you with their lives." Finn felt the full weight of that statement settle over him. Ambassador, I'm honored, but I'm not sure I understand what that means practically." "It means," interrupted Commander Idris, entering behind Ornala, "that you've just become a key figure in Malgrith-human relations, whether you wanted to or not." The commander looked tired but satisfied. He carried a data pad that he handed to Finn with something that might have been sympathy. "The Malgrith Collective has been evaluating humanity's suitability for a formal alliance," Idris explained. "Military, trade, mutual defense, the whole package. They've been watching us, testing us, trying to determine if we're trustworthy partners or potential rivals. Your survival of the witness walk has answered their question." Finn scrolled through the data pad, his eyes widening as he read. "They're offering a full alliance treaty. Technology exchange, mutual defense pact, trade agreements. This is massive." "It is," Ornala confirmed. "My people respect strength, but we value loyalty more. You demonstrated both." You faced certain death for children not your own, not your species, without hesitation. That is the mark of a worthy ally. But I didn't do it for political reasons. I did it because they needed someone. We know, Ornala said gently. That is precisely why it matters. Finn looked down at the three cubs. No, not cubs anymore. Three young adults who were watching him with expressions that mixed affection, protectiveness, and trust. His neat, quiet life had just exploded into something infinitely more complicated. So, he said slowly, let me make sure I understand. I'm now responsible for three apex predators. I've accidentally negotiated a historic alliance between two species, and my reward for nearly dying is more responsibility? Commander Idris actually laughed. That's about the size of it. On the bright side, you're getting a significant promotion, a generous hazard pay increase, and your own xenobiological research wing. We're also assigning you permanent quarters large enough to accommodate, well, he gestured at the cubs, your new family. My new family, Finn repeated, testing the words. They felt strange and right in equal measure. Rila bumped her head against his hand. Gorn made a contented chirping sound. Nex settled onto the floor beside him with a rumbling sigh. Yeah, Finn said, a genuine smile spreading across his face despite the pain, the exhaustion, the absolute insanity of his situation. I guess that's what they are? Lieutenant Paz appeared in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. Fair warning, the station news feeds are calling you the Predator Whisperer. There's already talk of you training other attendants, establishing protocols, maybe even creating an exchange program. Of course there is, Finn muttered. Also, Paz continued, 3 different species have submitted requests for you to help with their adolescent transition ceremonies. Apparently, surviving impossible odds makes you very popular. Just what I always wanted? Look at it this way, Commander Idris said, clapping Finn carefully on his uninjured shoulder. You're now officially the most interesting human on Pinnacle Reach. Try not to die doing an encore. As everyone filed out, leaving Finn alone with his new charges, he found himself laughing quietly. He'd come into this expecting to die. Instead, he'd gained a family, changed diplomatic history, and apparently acquired a reputation that was going to make his life spectacularly complicated. Nex lifted his head. What's funny? Just thinking, Finn said, settling down against Rila's warm flank, that I'm going to need a much bigger apartment, and probably a lot more coffee. We don't understand human humor, Gorn observed. You'll learn, Finn promised. We've got time. And surrounded by 3 sleeping predators who trusted him with their lives, Finn closed his eyes and allowed himself to believe it.